discussion. Remember Mike Myers, the screenwriter of this beautiful film. And Renee will join us in a minute. Yeah, must bring back some memories. You said over 20 years.
Yeah, it was almost exactly. It was released in the end of 1996. Christmas, like I think December 20th, 96, and played through early spring of 97.
And welcome, Renee Zellweger. Woo!
Hello.
Would you have at least two among three? It's between or on?
Here we go.
Yeah, we was just saying it. I was like, let's ask the obvious question. How did you guys all come together in this project? It's based on the memoir of the leading character. I love personally movies that are about where two people's lives collide for a short time. It wasn't a long time, right? It maybe a 3-4 year period that they were associated.
Right, yes. About
and
about 3 years.
More or less at the beginning of her life and at the end of his. And I love that kind of movie. So who found the memoir or the book and thought this would make a good movie?
Well, Novelyn Ellis was a teacher of mine in high school.
Oh.
She was it was the last year she taught, actually. And when she retired, we asked her what she was going to be doing. She said, I'm going to be writing a book. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like, what's the book about? And she goes, it's about the guy that wrote the Conan stories. That's about all she said. So she went off to do her book. This is Laurie, help me out, 1980. And I went to California. I was, years go by. 1985, she sends me a copy of the book. I get about a third of the way through it and put it down because this is not as interesting as I really thought it was. Mm-hmm. Then I went and saw Room with a View, the Merchant Ivory film, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought to myself, this is like a small, intimate, let me pick up this book again. And I read it the second time. I'm like, there's a movie here. And that's when I started writing the script in like 1990, around 90.
Wow. So you optioned it. You had a script.
Optioned it for $1, for $20, I think. Yeah.
I believe you could buy Manhattan for that a while back.
Yeah, about $20, and then worked for like two years on it. It was like a huge mammoth 165-page script, which you didn't have to do, thank God. But
and when did Dan intersect with the project then?
Dan intersected early on. He was I kind of tell everybody that this whole project was based because Ken Russell was a hardhead.
Was a hardhead?
Ken Russell, the director.
Yes, I know.
Ken had cast Ben Mouton in a film called Whore, opposite Teresa Russell. People had tried to replace Ben because he wasn't a big name at the time. And Ken decided, no, I'm using it. And Ben was a person that brought me to Dan because Dan was the producer on Whore.
Yes, he was. He was working with Vestra.
With Ken, exactly right. So that's where I met Dan, through Ben. And Dan was, Dan had this amazing producer credits with Ken Russell, and he'd done The Dead and all. I mean, I was just blown away by his producer credits alone at that point. And when I met Dan, I was expecting, a button-down Englishman or something. And I mean, at the farmer's market, actually, the first time. And that wasn't Dan, obviously. Yeah. And I was kind of like, well, this guy is like exactly nothing like I thought he was going to be. But he liked the script. He started working with me. His big comment on the script was it needed to be more visual and get it out of the car. Because originally, a lot of those scenes you did with Vincent took place in a car, driving around, because that's all there was to do in Cross Plains in the 30s.
And that's how she remembered it, I presume, in her memoir.
But Dan said, take it out of the car, so we took it out of the car, we honed it down, obviously, and at about 1993, we kind of said, well, Dan's been working with us for this long, we don't have a director yet. What if we asked Dan to direct it? Let's see what he would say. And of course, it's, hey, Dan, would you like to direct it? Yes, so so exactly. So he came aboard as director, and it was good because now, as a producer, you can kind of take projects and juggle them, But now that Dan was directing, we knew he was going to focus on this, and he did. He went to Centerville, and he said, we're going to do this at Centerville, and we sent it to Vincent, because he was the person I basically wrote the script for after seeing him in Full Metal Jacket. I didn't even know him, but we got it to his agent, and I got the phone call one day, Vincent wants to do it. So it's like, awesome.
One down.
One down. And Vincent brought his own actress to the party, Olivia Dabo.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And Olivia actually flew down with Vincent to meet Miss Ellis. They met Miss Ellis. They came to our house. They did the whole thing. Fly back to Los Angeles. About a week later, I get a phone call. I've got bad news. I'm like, oh shoot, what's now? Olivia's pregnant. Well, that's not good. We're gonna be shooting in August in the middle of Austin, Texas, summer, and she'll be about 4 or 5 months pregnant at that point. That's not good. So we called our casting director, Laurel Smith, who's now Laurel Vouvray, who lives in Austin, by the way. And she goes, I know a girl you need to see. And that showed up.
That's the girl. The girl in the picture.
And you actually read a monologue that was not in the movie for your audition. I don't know if you remember. But it didn't make the cut of the film. But that's what you read, because we were in the back watching. You didn't know we were back there. Me and Ben were in the back. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Dan was sitting there, but we were back in the projection booth. It was back there in the thing. So, and then after you read, it's like, okay, we're good. We're good to go.
Let me ask Renee. Renee, I think you're from Texas originally?
That's really touching. Yeah, I'm from Katy, which used to be a small town outside of Houston, now part of Houston.
I see.
And,
so did this resonate with you as well?
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I recognize every morsel of it is in my blood, you know. But I was living in Austin until 93, and I had just moved out to Los Angeles.
Okay.
Had only been out there for about a year and a half when I was sent the script.
Right. And what was it like seeing it again now? The memories?
It was so emotional.
Yeah.
It was so emotional. I just all the memories from those days kept rushing back, and it's. I knew that it would be a treat, a real a precious experience to see it again and remember all that, but I didn't expect it to be so moving.
Oh, well. Well, I mean, it's also so early in your career. I mean, when young people are together, it's a different spirit. I mean, and now I know you've got this huge career and you're part of the big productions and all of that. But this must have been so personal at the time, you guys starting out.
It's still my favorite kind of film.
Yeah.
Human stories, where you feel you get to know the characters in the film. That's still my favorite kind to go see and to do.
And I've kind of forgotten, it's such interesting supporting cast, too. Anne Wedgeworth, who's a name not a lot of people know, but is a very delicate kind of actress.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
And Herb Presnell, who was like a Broadway type guy, big song. What would you say, Molly Brown? Unsinkable Molly Brown, things like that. So that's kind of an interesting mix of types.
Yeah, it was. And Helen Cates, who played the other school teacher with the round glasses, the unforgiving school teacher. Yeah, she was a best friend of mine from Dallas. I haven't seen her in such a long time. But yeah, it was one of those once in a lifetime experiences where,
And Mike, were you around all the time while it was sort of being shot?
Fortunate. I was very fortunate because I did get to go to the shoot. I was there every day. I rewrote one scene. And that never happens anymore. I mean, I was fortunate because Vincent D'Onofrio was kind of the guardian of the script, I guess we call it. When he decided he wanted to do it, he said, we're going to do it this way, and we're not going to change it. And I was very fortunate because I know that that's very rare. Yeah. So I rewrote, I think I said about a half a page of a Dr. Howard scene, and that's it. Everything was...
So everything was on the page that's on the screen?
More or less, yeah. They did a little bit of improvising during some of the scenes that he threw the flower at you. That was Vincent trying to get a rise out of you. So
he's good at that.
Oh, yeah, he was very good at that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The key to any next-gen recoil rig is balance while keeping your rig short and light. Your eye, shoulder, and hand placement never change, so the key is to slide the camera as far back as needed to achieve the perfect balance. This forces your EVF and camera control forward, but our unique VCT base plate design gives you extra rod space, making it possible to mount accessories close to the camera body, allowing for a perfectly balanced recoil rig. The next-gen recoil's adjustability is great enough to balance any size camera with any size lens and any additional accessories, and its quick releasability makes setup and breakdown fast and effortless.
Yep.
And you shot all on location.
Just outside of Austin. We shot one day in Austin at the Paramount Theater, which are all the theater scenes, but everything else was on the outskirts. Dripping Springs, Georgetown, Bastrop. Yeah. Yep.
That makes a difference, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
In terms of the feeling. I remember, what is it, Osage, Osage County. They all shot on location, and they lived in a house, and Meryl was like the den mother and did the cooking, and everyone said it made such a difference.
Yeah, it does. It adds the authenticity, I think, yeah.
Any other stories about the production, or can we take some questions from the audience? Yeah.
Go ahead, question.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, Renee, I got a two-part question for you. First of all, I want you to talk about the significance of this film festival, its effect on the film industry, especially in the state of Louisiana. And also, I know that you're a UT Austin grad,
Yes.
and there was something about you like football, so I'm sure you're aware. I want to know your opinion on the new football coach at Texas A&M. And this movie, John Montgomery, that LSU and Texas are playing a two-year series in 2019.
Right. Well, because Mama didn't raise no fool, I'm going to skip part B of that question and just say good luck. The first part of it, in the introduction sequence to the film festival, I had my phone out because I wanted to record Dan's voice and have it there on my phone. Listen to him talk about the importance of festivals like this to bring film and art and different perspectives and the creative visions of brilliant minds to people everywhere. Because a lot of times the films will open on the coast, but not in the middle, and we don't get access to these beautiful stories that, as Dan recognized, change how we think. It's not so much about watching a politician or a figurehead speak about their opinions. It's about what we feel when we're exposed to different perspectives. And there's no medium that can completely transform us in the same way as film. So any festival, anywhere that celebrates those different perspectives that allow us to look at life in a different way, and change our minds or make us feel moved to do better, to grow. That's a great thing. It's a great thing. I know I did, and I have a lot of good friends who wear the purple. I do, a lot of good friends. But I'm here, man. What can I tell you? I'm here.
My dad went to UT.
See, it's funny though, because when I go out, when I'm in California, and I see anybody from our region, the rivalry disappears. We flock to each other. Oh, hey, we understand each other. We speak the same language. We know, we understand each other. So.
I saw another hand. Ma'am.
Well, I'm Jen. Yeah, this is Judy Ireland.
Judy Ireland.
Wow.
I remember having a discussion with Dan about one scene in the movie, and I was wondering what your perspective was about the insertion of that wolf on the bluff.
Oh man.
Yeah. So do you remember?
Yeah.
Transpired
What happened
there?
was when Ben Muto and I went to Cross Plains for the first time. There's a little ridge up there called Caddo Ridge. It's a natural occurring like mountain that's out on the plains there. And we hiked up to the top of the mountain, and as we were just, kind of envisioning like what it would have been like back in the 30s, and how just the countryside and what they would have seen, this coyote like jumped right in front of us for like a split second, and then like popped out. We're like, you see that? You see that was cool. Like, we got to put that in the movie, man. That's got to be in the movie. So originally it was going to be a coyote, and then I don't know how it became a wolf. I guess because you can't train coyotes or something like that. Well, you can't. Yeah, you can't. A coyote won't behave or something. So he goes, well, why don't we make it like a wolf or something? I said, well, Howard would probably go, yeah, a wolf is better than a coyote. And if you look closely on that shot, you can see his chain. Yeah, you can't. If you watch it again, look a little closer, you can see the chain because it was not loose. No. So it's there. But that's how that came into. That's how it started. It started as a coyote and ended up as a wolf. And there was also some scene. Well, I'm not even getting into those scenes.
Well, I just want to add that this is probably the 7th time that I've seen the movie, and like we all experience, you always see something more every time you watch the movie. So I'm going to be looking for that chain on the 8th round.
You can see it. You can see it. And then the latch on the door, when you go to open the door, the chain latch that was probably in the 70s. There's one on the door right there. Ooh, my God.
This is our durability test number 2. We're going to run over this gratical eye with Jens's Jeep. Come over here and take a look. I want you to see the picture. Can you see the picture? Okay, here we go. You see an image in there? That's strong.
I think that motion picture is probably one of the most powerful ways you can communicate a message. I think 10 years ago, if you didn't have massive budgets, you were severely limited on the quality of story that you could tell based off of the music that you had access to. That to me is what Musicbed changed, is it made the best artists in the world available to hundreds of thousands of filmmakers. And that hasn't really existed before. What we've done is created a platform to allow the creatives to be making the choice of who wins. I mean, that's been one of the most fulfilling things for us, is watching hundreds of artists just almost begin to dream at another level.
Who was your production designer on this? Is it? Because it does have a, you do capture
they did
Depression era.
I'm trying to think of the guy's name. Gail did all the costumes. Oh man, I'm blanking on his name. But they got the original Weird Tales, and they did everything, all of it. I mean, I was blown away. To them it was nothing. Like, oh yeah, we can do that. It was like, okay.
Yeah. Am I wrong? Is the writer well known today? Because it was new to me. I mean, I learned about him from the film.
Like I said, he's one of the founders of fantasy fiction, Conan the Barbarian,
I know
Solomon
of Conan,
Kane.
but that world,
yeah,
he's
yeah.
he's a
Yeah,
rock star.
Yeah,
Okay.
everybody knows who he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been reading the wrong comic books.
Well, so many people didn't realize Conan was from the 30s. Did you guys know that Conan was from the 30s? A lot of people think, oh, it's the Frazetta 70s sort of phenomenon. No. It goes way back before that.
Yes, sir? The glasses up there?
Thanks for the mic. You mentioned someone with glasses, so I'm not sure if that's someone else. But I was just going to ask if you all have any special memories of Dan that you'd want to share with us.
Jump in, please.
Danny was born loving the cinema, and there's some great family stories about Danny growing up. One was that he would escape my mother's care, get on a bus and travel downtown Vancouver and sneak into adult restricted films. He was notorious for that. And the other family story is that he saw the movie Psycho with Janet Leigh about 16 times. He was obsessed with it. So he came by his love of movies very naturally. He was born that way. And, he used to carve the restricted sign, which in Canada at the time in the 50s was a Black Panther that said the word restricted on it. And you would find that symbol on all of his school books. And I'm talking elementary school child here. And carve it on trees outside. We always knew where Danny had been when we saw the Black Panther.
That's great. I do remember, and I learned this when there was the tribute in Los Angeles, that he had been an usher in a movie theater and rapidly rose up the ranks because he was so darn good at it. And did he become a manager, theater?
So Dan became a manager at the West Vancouver Odeon, and my younger brother worked for him as an usher. So the two of them had the greatest stories to tell. Yeah.
Teenager when that happened? He was a teenager when he became,
Theater manager.
He lied on his application about his age so that he could get the job. Yeah, because he was sneaking into the theater in junior high. He would skip school and go sneak into the theater. And he lied on the application to get the job as the usher, and they didn't know he was a teenager, so he was a teenage manager of this theater. I remember he told a story once that they got snowed in for days, and this was not a problem to Danny, because they just reran the films over and over again and ate at the snack bar. If that's not a cinephile, yeah. Yes, yeah, it's true.
Ian, Jason's saying 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay.
Got a question up here.
Renee, I just had a question for you. Did you read the novel One Who Walked Alone before your audition?
No, I didn't. I didn't have access to it, but Dan gave it to me, and I did read it before we did the film. I wanted to get some insights into, how she thought, her voice,
I'll do a quick Danny for you.
Yeah.
I was telling Renee and even Ian earlier, the thing I miss about Dan is that laugh.
Oh, yeah.
I would go to the Egyptian theater just with another friend of mine. We sit in the balcony, and the Egyptian theater is a mammoth theater in Los Angeles. It's a rep house, so that they screen old movies. So it's one of Dan's haunts. I'd be sitting up there with my friend Dean, and you'd hear that laugh. And I turn to my friend Dean and say, "Hey man, Dan's here." It's like, "How do you know? Do you need to hear that?" And sure enough, when I would get, after the movie was over, I'd walk down, and I'd be walking out this door, and Dan would be walking out that door. So it's like it was, it's the one laugh that I do remember. I don't remember anyone else's except his.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
He'd applaud opening credits, too.
Yeah, he did.
Not just closing.
Opening, no, and
Opening
closing.
credits.
It's true. He was a little bit like...
He's a big fan.
Yeah, God.
fan guy.
He was just joyful. He was joyful. He was like Willy Wonka. Seriously, he always had something up his sleeve, a wink in his eye, and magic followed him everywhere. Everywhere. He was indeed a blessing to all of us.
So we're going to take one last question from this lady in the back row with the mic.
Thank you.
Fire away.
I love this movie. I love how Novelty is always looking for that guidance from Robert as a writer. So Renee, you as an actress, what kind of guidance can you give for fellow actresses and actors actually in my acting studio that I go to for my acting class? What kind of guidance can you give us besides, we don't give up and we're going to keep trying to reach for our dream, but what can we do? What kind of guidance can you give us?
You have some of your students with you today, you said?
Well, it's not my students, they're my classmates.
Their classes in your
Yes.
classmates? Can y'all raise your hands? I'm just curious where you're. Oh, hey.
And John Apperson too, but I don't think he's in here.
Well, the first thing I'd say is that if you're doing it and you love it, then you are realizing your dreams. And it doesn't matter if you're playing out a scene in a coffee shop. Seriously, or making films. The joy is the same. It's the same. It really is. So congratulations that you guys are active and living your dreams. Wherever it goes, it just leads right back to there. That same joy of doing. So you're not really waiting to live your dreams or realize your dreams. You are. I share with you something that I learned from Vinny on this film. Actually, I would say the most important advice that I had ever been given professionally. It was pretty. It was just an intellectual way of approaching the work that I hadn't considered before. I thought that you must understand your motivation and where you're going and what story you're telling, but I hadn't fully appreciated the focus that it required in order to see where you could go, what the potential was in terms of storytelling. And he kind of explained it to me like a chess game. You can't go and do your work and then kind of futz around and joke around in between the takes if you're telling a story about grief, or if you're really thinking about what it is that you want to express. You have to feel it. You can't just fake it, otherwise you're just pulling faces, and the audience knows the difference. I mean, I do, don't you? When you go and you see a play or a film, you know when somebody's living that experience.
Definitely.
And if you're telling a story that's worth telling because it will impart something to the people you're sharing it with, then it's worth that focus. And it changed how I work. I mean, sounds like I take it really seriously, but I kind of do. The joy is not playing around between takes or laughing or joking, but it's staying in that headspace so that you don't have to start over again from the very beginning when they say rolling, or when you walk back out on stage. You're still there, and you just take it to higher places from there.
Thank you so
very much. And don't stop. Just keep going.
Thank you.
Don't stop. Keep going.
Thank you so much. What a treat.
We now have three graticals, the gratical X, the gratical I, and the gratical HD. The gratical X and the gratical HD are essentially the same unit. The only difference is you can, with the X, only buy the features you want and get in at a lower price. Both of these units are self-powered and they have video distribution. The I, on the other hand, you need power to use this unit. It only has an SD in, and it has two new features, a lit tally light and a proximity sensor to turn the unit off.
And it is small.
So this is our new gratical line, the X, the I, and the HD.